Man.
I'd like to call the East Ascension Drainage Meeting to order. Got it.
I need a package.
I'm sorry for September 9th, 2019. We have Mr. Turner. Everyone else is present. Mr. Cluart, would you lead us in the invocation followed by the pledge?
Yes, I would. Would everyone please stand for the invocation? In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Dear Lord, we thank you for this day. Lord, we ask that we as elected officials keep the people that we represent in our hearts and in our minds, our thoughts, and in our actions. Lord, we ask that you continue to watch over those hit by the last hurricane, and please keep us protected throughout this hurricane season. Lord, it's with a heavy heart we ask for some special prayers. For Councilman Todd Lambert's brother, Sammy Lambert, we ask that you pray for all the family Lambert, all the Lambert family, big family, great family, been here forever. We ask that you keep them in your heart. We also ask that you pray for one of our employees, Joseph Lacerre. His father passed away. We ask that you keep the Lacerre family in your prayers. And it's with also a sad moment last week. We ask that you pray for the Gore family, for our employee Monty and Angie, for the loss of their son Dustin. We ask that you cover that family and bring them through this, and ask them to find some peace in the world and in your wisdom. We ask this in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Anyone wishing to speak on any agenda item, please sign in with Ms. Liz. Go on to number 4, the acceptance of the minutes for the August 5th meeting.
Motion.
Moved by Mr. Johnny, second by Ty. Under the chairman report, I'd like to call up, we need to add something with this capital region water. Mr. President, or who's gonna,
Yeah, Williams is gonna.
Mr. Daniel, would you come up and kind of give us how this started and where we at on it?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We'd like to add an item to the agenda. It's for the Capital Region Capacity Building Grant Program for the Watershed Initiative. Basically, by October the 1st, there has to be an application in over who's going to kind of manage these different watershed districts that we're in.
Motion. Second.
Okay, moved by Mr.
John.
Second by Mr. Lambert. We will,
Dempsey, you need to get a unanimous
Roll call.
vote on this one.
that's what we're fixing to do. We need a roll call. Liz?
Commissioner Cagnolati,
Yes.
Commissioner Cazzo,
Yes.
Commissioner Cluart,
Yes.
Commissioner Dawson,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Chairman Dempsey Lambert,
Yes.
Commissioner Todd Lambert,
Yes.
Commissioner Lawler,
Yes.
Commissioner Satterley,
Yes.
and Commissioner Turner, he's absent.
All right, we're gonna move that to 5A, right after my report. And also, I'd like to give a little report on the river cleanup we had 3 weeks ago on Avent River, Bioman Shack. They went several miles up the river, and we got a lot of stuff out of the water. And I'd like to also thank the Avent River Commission and all the waterway guys that were out there. It was hot, but I think we really really cleaned up the river pretty good.
While
Mr. Cooley?
while you're on that, I just wanna thank the industrial partners that sent people out to clean up. They said they had a good time working with you guys. I know you had several council members out there, and it was a good deal.
With that, and also, Congressman Graves, he attended, and he was out there picking up and dirty and sweaty too, so, just to let everyone know, I mean, he's really has the, Baton Rouge, Livingston, Ascension, all the parishes at heart to try to get these projects on the way, so, he was there and very supportive. All right, with that being said, I'll move on to 5A.
Number
5A, the Capital Watershed, Mr. William Daniel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. So the way, this is for the $1.2 billion, and the way it works is that if you want to be eligible for this $1.2 billion, you have to be part of a, you're in a watershed group, and I have the map. I attached it with the packet I handed out. We're in watershed region 7. You can see, if you look, you can see Ascension Parish, the West Bank is in 6. So we are Region 7, we're still kind of working on Region 6. It looks like perhaps New Orleans may want to do something, those more southern parishes. But in Region 7, we wanted to work with the Capital Region Planning Commission to have them be the sort of the financial administrator of the group. And you have to have a letter of interest in by October the 1st at 3 p.m. stating your preference. So I've attached a sort of a sample resolution of what it's going to be, and it's basically going to be a resolution approving an agreement with the Capital Region Planning Commission for the purpose of applying for grant funding. So that would be between Capital Region Planning Commission and Ascension Parish. And I get the full resolution for you that you can vote on at the full council meeting. But that's basically the way this thing is going to work. It's a little bit complicated. There's going to be 17 members on this commission. We're going to go to a applicant briefing on September 16th. But right now there'd be one member from Ascension Parish. Then there would be a floodplain manager, a local drainage or levee district person, a local engineer, one natural resource professional, 3 community representatives, teachers, faith-based leaders, social workers. Then there will be 10 of the following members: academic, soil water conservation, regional planning development director, builder developer, local HBA, environmental nonprofit, chamber of commerce, real estate, for a total of 17 members. So these 17 members are going to have to all get together and decide what they're going to vote on to send up to this watershed commission in terms of projects.
Sure. Mr. Clua.
Yeah, William, and Mr. President and Board, when we first looked at this a couple months ago, it was, you'd question whether that we had the ability, the political ability to all work together. Okay, and that's always out there. One thing about it, this district does, it covers, basically covers the Amite River Basin in Louisiana. So we should all have a common interest here. So I appreciate any efforts, and I just want to clear up, at the time I was looking at how the boards were being developed, that we do have the possibility of having as little as one member from Ascension Parish.
It looks
After
like
it's all picked.
It looks like Ascension gets to pick one, yes, sir.
That's what I'm saying. So we have the possibility of having as little as one member from Ascension Parish.
Now, the good news is 6 of these parishes have to receive half the money.
Right, because they're in the top 10.
Correct.
Right. So you're
So-
talking about $600 million to 6 of them.
Right, so we want to make sure that we're well represented in that. We don't want a couple of parishes to gang up against another parishes so that the money can get disproportionately given out. So we want to get our proportionate share.
Well, I'll go ahead and make the motion to move the resolution to the full council.
All right, we'll, Mr. Dawson, we'll hold on.
Get a second if you
I second it, too.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Coy, second by Mr. Todd. Discussion, Mr. Dawson.
So, one, I mean, William, we looked at this, as Randy said, we went to a meeting over at the governmental office about this. I mean, there's a lot of these parishes that are nowhere near the Amite River Basin. I mean, Washington Parish, give me a break. St. Tammany, I mean, West
St.
Feliciana.
Tammany, Washington, and Tangipahoa are in their own, they have their own basin.
Well, what is this, the line I see?
No. They're in our district. They're in our
Yeah.
watershed district, but they're in a different, and maybe in the future,
Different floodplain, Bill.
yeah, they're in,
Well, I
maybe in the
know, I
future,
mean-
they're talking about maybe going down to smaller
Yeah, it's about Pontchartrain, it's not about.
areas, but right now, this is,
I talked to Paul Sawyer today, actually, and, from my understanding of talking to him is that this is not set in concrete that this is how they're gonna divvy out the $1.2 billion. That, this is what the state and the governor's trying to get people to adhere to. But this is not, this has to be approved by HUD, is what I understand. And, I'm afraid to, I'm looking at this for the first time tonight, and I'm afraid to go join up with 17 other members when we're in this 10 that are the most impacted parishes.
well, we're not joining up with 17 other
Well, they have to approve.
parishes.
They have to approve anything that gets done in there. Is that the understanding?
Well, and I'm just telling, I was the makeup of their,
Well, I mean, how's like
Regional
West
Steering
Feliciana and Washington, we're gonna have to get their support to do some kind of project in Ascension Parish?
it does seem a little, unwieldy.
Yeah, when with one vote out of 17, well, we're gonna have a big hammer there.
Well, you're exactly correct, and we've discussed this with them. And I actually went and sat down with Pat and talked to him about this and told him that I thought maybe 17 people would have trouble agreeing on the day of the week.
Exactly.
You're referring to Pat Forbes?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's the guy that
Yeah,
spent
that's what
300
I'm
million to
saying.
give out
I just want to make
500.
sure everybody understands.
Right. But they seem to be set on this, so all this resolution does is puts us in,
Gives us skin in the game.
makes sure that we are complying with the rules as they are written now, and, but it doesn't obligate us to anything.
Well, I don't want anywhere in it, and it says in here, acting in support of the watershed region management activities in conjunction with the state Louisiana watershed initiative hereby. I don't want to agree to any part of this myself. I mean,
If we don't put a letter in by October 1st, then we're out, and we won't be eligible for the 1.1
We got to be
billion.
part of the conversation right now, Bill, and I don't have a problem. We'll review it.
But it's actually
Before it
supposed
gets
to
to the
say,
council, okay?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It was actually supposed to start with whereas, and I typed this all up, and, well, actually, Sandra typed it up, and then I filled in the blanks, and then when I sent it, I sent the original version, so I'm just not as good a secretary as they are.
well, I mean, that's the whereas a result,
But
but
it's
it still
supposed to
says
start
in
with a
there that
whereas.
I'm leery about supporting anything that has these 17 parishes in there, which I'd have to look at them, but I'm
It's
presuming
not
that-
17.
Not
It's
17.
It's not 17.
What's the number?
There's 17
Where'd I get
members.
17?
17 members
Okay.
from those parishes.
Right
Okay,
here
I should have counted them, but what I'm saying is, it looks to me like half of these parishes are not the most impacted parishes that are in that 10 that should be getting that funding.
I don't disagree with you, sir. All I'm saying is, if we're going to be in the game, then we have to
If
have,
this is the game,
and it's the game today.
yeah.
And so, all I'm asking is that we approve this resolution to have a partnership with the Capital Region Planning Commission. That's all this is.
Okay,
No,
we'll
and I'm
go.
not necessarily in favor of that either.
Okay, well, let's hold,
Let
go
me
ahead,
answer
Past President, what you got?
Bill, you're right, but the rules from Pat Forbes right now is for us to pick someone to manage that area. And we met with capital area, and we better off with them than we are with those other parishes that you just named, some of them, that we have nothing to do with. Now, hopefully it don't even go down like this, but the rules are right now, it's like Claude said, this is the rules right now by Pat Forbes from the governor's office. And so if that gets thrown out, it gets thrown out, but right now half the money goes to the top 10, and we in that.
Yeah.
So, but you're right, it's screwed up.
Well, and I don't know whether I'm correct or not, but I call it proposed rules, because Paul told me that, these rules had to be approved by HUD. All I'm saying is that, my personal opinion is that those of us that were the 10 most impacted, we need to get together. That's the ones that need to get together, and we need to fight for that money.
Well,
And they got the whole $1.2 billion because of the problems that we had in this parish and these other 9 parishes. And now they're taking that money and spreading it out across the state. It's
well,
just-
half the money has to go to the most 10 impacted parishes.
That was earmarked from DC.
That was
That's where they
the
stopped
way
getting
that
Well,
HUD
it's
wrote the rules.
But I was told again, keep on calling Tom.
Yeah.
Paul, that's a floor. That's not a
No,
ceiling.
that's true.
That's
At
the floor.
least half the money, then you have to
That's it.
fight for the other
I
600.
think we ought to go fight for the whole 1.2 billion, and we ought to be the 10 parishes that were most affected, and that's where, that should be our going-in position, not to dilute this out to how many there are. West Feliciana, and I have nothing against them, but they
Well,
didn't
that
have
doesn't
any
mean
flooding
that doesn't mean they're
2016.
getting a project. That just means what the goal
We're
of this.
gonna have their vote to get
They're
our
not- they're not
project.
in the
That
top
ain't gonna
10.
happen. It ain't gonna happen.
Let's get a little more discussion. You finished, Mr. Bill?
I am,
Yeah,
sorry.
go ahead, Mr. Johnson.
William, how many other parishes are going with CRPC?
They told us today 7.
Yes,
7.
7 out of the 10?
right.
Okay.
And we just feel we're in a better position with them than we are with some of those other parishes that want to take over. And you was in that conference
Yeah.
call that day I had it.
Well,
So, but it's the rules right now, Bill, that could all change tomorrow. But we're just saying, if we got to go by those rules, we'd rather be with CRPC than some of them other
No, I
parishes
understand
that
where-
So
want.
is-
I understand
so
where
is
you are.
the-
It's just, I think we need to try to go in a different direction. We don't have to accept these rules,
Well,
just because they're proposing them.
if HUD approves these rules and
Well,
we
that's the
don't
big
do
if.
that,
That's the big.
then
if.
we're
Not
out.
getting nothing.
we're out. Just like you had to build your house 2 feet higher under Restore.
Yeah.
You didn't do that, you didn't get any money.
No, I understand that. I'm just saying that.
Now, we-
So go ahead,
there-
Mr.
you know,
Johnson.
Maybe,
Mr. Johnson,
maybe we do this,
Mr. Johnson
but
had
we
the floor.
also
Hold
have
on,
to
hold
do
on.
some.
Mr.
I'm
Johnson
sorry.
had the floor. Go ahead.
So, William, this map, according, and like the past president said in that conference call the other day, this was not all the parishes that were in that. So is this a proposed map that we're trying to get done, or what is this?
No, this is the map actually put out by the OCD.
That's the original map.
This is, and what happened is St. Tammany was in Region 6, and they moved themselves into Region 7.
Okay.
So this is the old map, still showing them in Region 6, but they are now in Region 7.
Okay. I'm in agreement with Councilman Dawson. I mean, I think we need to get this letter in and file it, but we need to push for everything we can get. And after we do that, after we get the letter in and make our case to Congressman Graves and anybody else to get it up to HUD to try to change these rules that they put out, we need to make sure we get as much money as we possibly can.
Mr. Todd, you finished?
Yeah, if there's some changes to take place, we could do that, but I see tonight we gotta move forward if we're gonna get any piece of this action, we can, we can take it to Graves and Paul and see if they can make some changes, but, I don't wanna be left out completely.
No,
if we don't vote on this.
I'm 100% in agreement. I think this is completely unworkable, but these are the rules right now, and I don't want to be left out because
That's right.
I'm a contrarian, so I
You know,
would just urge you to
we
vote.
spend a lot
vote
of
with this.
taxpayers' money here, and if we can get some federal funding for, we need to get our share of it for sure.
This is so we'll have some skin in the game, right?
Ms. Terry?
So, William, I'm like Benny and Bill very uncomfortable with this. I think I heard you say that Ascension Parish, one of the most devastated parishes in the 2016 flood, is going to have the same weight of voting capacity in this coalition as an LCSW appointed from somewhere. Okay.
I'm
That-
not 100% sure how, I'm looking at this Region 6 Steering Committee composition worksheet that they gave out. The actual applicant briefing is September 16th. So that's a week from today. So we'll find out more, but I'm just looking at the worksheet, and it shows number of members, Ascension Parish 1, Assumption Parish 1, and then there's all these other members, so,
Parish will get one
Repeat,
representative. then all
repeat
these
for
other
me
Right.
follow.
who some of those were. I think I heard social workers and, I mean,
well,
I've been
three
working.
community.
Three community leaders? Okay, I got you. I'm close enough. I've been sitting in this seat 8 years, and I don't feel like I know enough to have a vote for the right drainage project that is going to impact all these significantly impacted parishes. I would not trust myself with that decision. I would go to some engineers and people who, Randy Cluott and Dempsey Lambert, who fully understand drainage in this parish, and Ron Savoy and some other parish presidents. There's no way in hell, and excuse my language, that this makes sense. This is stupid.
So I'm very offended by the word hell, ma'am.
I know. I get that.
But please don't think that this is
Yeah.
please don't misinterpret. I'm not in favor of this.
I know,
I just
I know.
want to get this in so that we can, so that whatever
So
rules
my
do come
question
down,
is-
we're not out.
So my question is, look, I don't have a problem with Capital Region Planning Commission. I have tremendous respect for Jamie Setz. I think it's not a bad call. That piece I like. Hadn't thought about him, but that is a good call. If we support this resolution and we send this, does this go in a package to HUD saying Ascension Parish is good with this?
No, it goes to OCD, and all they do is, the only thing that this is about, is for the October 1st deadline, is picking a manager for our region, for our watershed district. That's all that we're doing with this resolution, is picking a
And
manager.
what's clarify for me, I'm not, in the public, what are these acronyms? What's the OCD?
Office of Community Development.
All right.
So HUD wrote the general rules for the 1.2 billion. Then OCD then takes HUD's
Mm-hmm.
rules. And the perfect example is Restore. So the federal government.
Not such a perfect example.
Well,
It's a perfect
it's a
example.
perfect example in more ways than one.
Yeah.
So OCD got the HUD money, and then they wrote the rules and how it could be distributed. So that's what's happening here. HUD wrote general rules on how the money, then OCD writes the specific rules on how the money gets distributed.
Okay.
And this is the program that they have said,
So let me ask you again, if we sign off on this resolution, does this tell OCD, the Office of Community Development, that we're happy with this?
no, it doesn't. It just
Okay.
appoints, it just says that if we're going to do this, the way you've said it, we just want to be with Capital Region Planning Commission.
If the rules stay the same, all this is we would get Capital Region to be the manager for that district, if the rules stay the same. If it changes, it all goes out the window. So Bill, I don't know,
So I have
other than
another
that,
question.
somebody else is gonna be the manager for this district.
So let me interject for a second, guys, because tonight, all y'all are doing is making a recommendation to send this to council. And William said on September 16th, there's going to be a conference call or a meeting that's going to explain further detail. So he may have more information at the time y'all vote on this actual resolution at the next council meeting.
Okay, that's great. Can I have one?
Sure, Mr.
Can fi- finish?
Sure, Mr. Chair.
So you said there were 7 people.
No,
What's 7?
no, there are, if you look at the map, these are, we're District 7.
District seven.
Right. But
Eight.
Our
some
provisional
point in this-
geographic boundary, District 7.
at some point in this, and I just wrote, what 7? You said there were 7. And did anybody else hear that?
There's 17
Okay,
members of
maybe I
that.
misheard. I don't always hear well.
But that's just, I mean, I'm just reading the, this document that they have about the makeup of the committees.
So we're not in any way, by supporting this, endorsing the idea that a social worker from West Feliciana Parish or a member of the community in Washington Parish is going to decide and have 2 votes when the parish of Ascension only has 1, and we need projects that relieve the flooding of some of the most severely impacted people in the 2016 flood.
I don't believe that we are endorsing this program at all.
Okay.
All I
That's what I need to know.
believe is that we are required to have a letter in with a manager appointed by October the 1st. If we don't, and these rules stay in place, then we're out.
Yeah, I get, I understand better. Thank you very much.
Mr. Randy.
Yeah, I just want to recoup a couple things. It's quite political, as everybody sees, every time these damn committees come out, okay? So I just want to let y'all know, within our sitting governor, he did form the Restore Group with no representation from Ascension Parish. Keep that in your mind, all right? Okay, given that, reflect back on that as we used as a perfect example within this. When we first saw this, we didn't think it was good because we didn't think that we felt the same as Washington Parish felt, as far as how we were hurt, what we need to do, and what kind of projects we have forward. But I don't know who drew them at first. OC, could have been Pat Forbes' group, probably, within a subcommittee. But the fact is, came out of Restore and out of subcommittee. One thing that this does, although we see the people that's across the Mississippi River from us, West Feliciana, and folks like that, Iberville's on this side and has a strong impact, and they were hurt hard. But within this, given the good, the bad, and the ugly, it does cover the people that need to work together to do something within this Amite River Basin, okay? So, I'm gonna just say it briefly that our hands are tied right now. This is the only show in town in front of us, not necessarily, and I agree with Bill to a point, but this is an invitation to the party. I want to go forward and accept the invitation to the party. We got the opportunity to have 1 member on there and a high possible opportunity to have as many as 5 if we get into those different categories, okay? So when this money comes down from DC, it's earmarked, and then the 600 million out of the 1.2 billion is earmarked for the 10 worst parishes. We've got a conglomeration of the top, one of the top 6 of those 10 right here within this one map that we want to, if we want to join this little party, okay? What we're leaving out is every time we talk to our federal representatives, they tell us, they send the money down with a certain amount of rules, but when it hits the state level, it's at the state's discretion on disbursement and to set a certain amount of rules. When they draw up the rules, HUD has to approve it because HUD's writing the checks, okay? But it's up to the state. So within our parish, we have state representatives that right now that sit in Baton Rouge. We have a state senator that sits in Baton Rouge. Those people need to take our fight to Baton Rouge to make sure that our parish is taken care of, right? And all our state representatives, other than 1, is predominantly in the parish, total of Ascension Parish, within their areas. So this is the only show in town right now. That's why I want to move forward with it. We looked at the map earlier. We didn't figure that even if we'd have cut out and went to District 6, do we have the same thoughts in mind as 6? I don't believe. I believe we've got more in common with the people that's in 7, 5 out of the 8, okay? So, given the opportunity to get this out of committee tonight and get it to the council, work on it, re-enlighten us after the meeting, things like that. But this is all we got right now. We got to continue to grab and continue to grab and continue to grab. So there's going to be a hell of a lot of discussion before this is finalized and before that money's finalized. But the feds are sending money down. you know, we've got a project I'm ready to go to court over and ready to file suit on about 3 other parishes for putting water on us, okay? Bottom line, there it is. But right now, they're looking at regional projects, and we're looking at things that's gonna keep the water from getting to us, not something that we do after it comes unobstructed to us. So, once again, I'll reaffirm my motion to move forward with this.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Mr. Aaron?
For my edification, I know that we have some parish representatives. Can you list the other ones that they have for the categories?
Yes.
I thought I heard you said it, but
Okay, now these again are proposed.
Proposed.
yes, I
Want to
understand.
make,
the
want to make it clear, these are not my categories.
I'm holding you accountable for
Personally
this. Yes.
I was afraid of that.
He can-
Okay,
for what
so
he
they
said.
say that Ascension Parish will get 1 member, and then, so, then there's supposed to be 1 floodplain manager, 1 local drainage or levee district manager, 1 local engineer, 1 natural resource professional, 3 community representatives, teachers, faith-based leaders, social workers, other, 1 academic in a related field, ecosystem function, landscape, conservation, ecology, other, soil, water, conservation, or agricultural community, regional planning or development district, or MPO, builder, developer, local HBA, environmental nonprofit, chamber of commerce, real estate, insurance, or banking.
They left out a 3-legged pig.
Yeah.
That's it.
Each parish.
Just covered all
will get
bases.
One representative, then those.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'll be honest. Part of what, and I think this has been.
They left
mentioned by
out plumber.
Plumber, yes, well, that's the obvious problem, isn't it now? This is all a plumbing issue when it comes down to it. Part of our problem is with the water coming from the north, and to have the Felicianas involved in this would be a good thing. Obviously, the concern is, our representation on it. I don't have a huge issue, quite honestly, with the type of individuals that they seem to be looking for. I mean, I know we have members, Lake Pontchartrain Basin Foundation, that live here in this parish that are very involved with that I think would be great representatives on this board. There are a lot of NGOs that I think do this type of work that could really help us on this. Is there a way that we get more influence in one of these other subcategories, to get somebody from the parish on there? Is there any protocol that they've set
I'm going to
forth?
find out on September 16th.
Okay, because I know that we have parish, I talk to them constantly, we have people in this parish that really do deal with this every single day, that are knowledgeable about it, that are looking for a regional solution. And quite frankly, that's what we need. The flooding in 2016 was not a localized issue, it was regional.
The idea of it being regional, I think, is a great idea. The idea of 17 people getting together from fairly disparate areas and coming together on one project, I think, is laughable.
Yeah, I have a problem with the 3 community representatives. I don't always know what that's going to
I'm
necessarily
not against
bring to
community
it.
representatives, but I think you pick everything on science and then you vet it after that.
Well, but I think that's more the way to do it. To me, you find solutions to the problem, and then you narrow down from there things that we know are going to work. Then we find out what's feasible, what's cost effective.
And we find out how the community feels about it.
Bingo. But part of my concern is that we have people killing projects early on before we know, or supporting projects without knowing whether or not it's going to work.
Correct.
And I think we need to first find out what's going to work for not just our region, I mean, for all of the parishes through here. But what I understand is we have no choice in this matter, basically, that we need to support this to have a seat at the table, or as Randy would call it, a party.
The way the rules are written currently, if we don't participate, then we're out and we would not be eligible for any of the 1.2 billion. And even the 600 million that was supposed to go to the affected parishes would go to the other affected parishes.
Well, I do find it an absolute joke that they're talking about $600 million going to parishes that weren't affected by this flood. That's an absolute joke. It's a political stunt right now, and this is not the time for that. When we flood again, we're going to remember that. That's ridiculous.
Yep.
Thank you.
Mr. Sadler.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and William, they say the best for last.
They always do somehow.
Well, that's your opinion.
Thanks, Randy.
You're welcome.
It is my opinion. I like me. Okay, everybody, calm down. All right, here we go. Here's what I've learned in my 8 years of service, since everybody's putting their credentials on the table this evening. In resolutions, the whereases, and more whereases are largely meaningless. Where the rubber meets the road is usually contained, and in this case, I think is as well, is where it says, now therefore, we are resolved. And let's look at that. What are we resolved? That the agreement between blank and blank, maybe you'd want to even fill those in and let
Well,
me
that's
know.
Ascension Parish and Capital Region Planning Commission.
Excellent, that's who I thought. So between us and CRPC, the next part of the sentence, the old chicken doctor has no problem. For the purpose of applying for grant funding. That's this part that Mr. Lawler and others said about, yep, I see the need, we need to have a seat at the party, quote unquote. But at the same time, the party planners are, and I'll borrow from Ms. Casso's words, stupid, quote unquote, which Bill started.
Forgive
You
me.
can use language that strong, but this committee makeup, I think we've all agreed when you went over all 17. First of all, 17 is way too many. I don't think there's anybody up here that would disagree that you can get anything done with 17 members. Probably couldn't agree on what day of the week it is or where they're meeting or why or anything. And then number two, got all the way down to after we named all these people, there's no plumber, jokingly. But I think that proves the point. So for the purpose of applying for the grant funding, I'm okay. But that sentence, be it resolved, goes on. And acting in support of watershed region management activities. I'm not resolved to do that.
That's the CRPC on our behalf.
Well,
Working on the
but
projects.
they're not just representing us. Okay? And then the next part of Ascension, and in conjunction with the State of Louisiana Watershed Initiative, is hereby approved. Wow. Approved. Some real strong language in here. Not
You're-
only, maybe it could be tweaked at least a little bit between now and the council vote, I don't know.
You're approving the Capital Region Planning Commission, nothing else.
Let's stop at that.
Maybe we should stop at the beginning part of the sentence, is all I'm saying, at this point.
I'm
Because,
fine with
I mean, okay, like everyone else here tonight, and the risk of being overly redundant, I want a seat at the table. But when they set the table and we eventually gonna lose control of the same, then we are gonna have another Restore Louisiana or another disaster, as Mr. Cluett has said. And I, for one, not for one, I think a bunch of, we're just all getting tired of this. I mean, the parishes that were affected the most should get most of the gravy. We're the squeaky wheel. We deserve the grease. And I'm not happy with, I don't want to go over them again, 3 community and an environmental manager, a banker, a soil water, an RMPO, a builder developer. What? Come on. I want to see a whole lot of expertise on that and a whole lot of stakeholders on it, and want to see it bent toward that and something better. And this whole thing is just scary at this point. And I thank everybody for listening.
Very sensitive and very, Ms. Terry.
You helped me to recall, I wasn't crazy after all. You said there were 7 who had joined the Capital Region Planning Commission.
That's
in
what,
this
we
effort.
met with Jamie Setz today. He said he had
So-
7 resolutions.
That was my question. Who are those 7?
I
Who's going to participate with Jamie?
don't know the whole 7. He told us, did you recall?
All of our surrounding parishes, that's why we felt better aligned. But this is only, if the rules stay as they are, this is to pick someone to manage that thing.
Right, I got
And we thought them instead of some other parish out there, or your police jail association jump in, which was on the conference call Benny heard. That's what we thought,
Yeah, I
we'd
get
be
all that.
better fit with Jamie Setz and them than anybody else, if the rules stay the same.
We know the other person applying, Madam Chairman, is St. Tammany Parish.
Well, that was my next question. I was going to beg the chairman to let me ask, because I've heard rumors that the parish president of Tangipahoa Parish wanted this role. And that would be totally unacceptable.
Well, St. Tammany took themselves out of 6 and put themselves into 7 and now they want to be the manager of 7.
So it's the parish president of St. Tammany that was wanting this role?
Correct.
I never, as I said, I'm not unhappy with the
And
capital.
that we
Region Planning
actually
Commission.
talked to, I actually talked to the representative that was on the phone in Washington Parish that day who was in support of St. Tammany, but when he found out Capital Region Planning Commission wanted to be it, then he switched over to them. So I just think it would be unusual for St. Tammany to be the manager when they're not even in our Amite River watershed.
I don't disagree with you. So I'm kind of like Doc here now. I'd like to see that, and acting in support of the watershed regional management activities, et cetera, eliminated. And then I could feel comfortable with.
That's no
With
problem.
just hiring Capital
We can
Region
easily
Planning
take that out. The only relevant thing is supporting CRPC for the role.
Mr. Bullock, you want to finish?
Yeah, I got two quick things. I want to let the record show that I agree with what Doc Sadler said.
Now, Randy, you laughed at me earlier, but I forgive you.
You won me over, Doc, man.
I forgive
And
you,
the
sir.
second thing is, I may not be around much longer, but
Agree with
I
me.
think after all the politics is done, you can follow the trail of the management of this from I-12 in Baton Rouge and go east. And that's what I'm afraid of. Thank you.
Mr. Dawson, you had anything else?
I'm going to object to the motion.
Well, first of all, Mr. Chairman, point of order. Is the motion on the table, the original document, I believe it still is second, and Ms. Castle was supporting my idea of truncating the resolved statement, the very last paragraph. Has that been offered as a substitute motion?
My motion was for the document as presented.
Right. So are we voting on that, or we're amending it before he
We will.
can object?
Let me clarify that. Ms. Liz and Cody, what do you have?
Randy did a first and got a second for the resolution.
Okay.
Move forward to the council.
As it's in our packet.
We could make that change at the council also.
You can make that up. And let William get this other 16.
We will have the rest of the information by the council meeting time.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, if you want my vote, you need to make that now.
Sure.
Well, we can amend it to take out that
I have
language.
no problem making that amendment with my motion.
I'll offer it as an amended motion.
Yeah, there
And
you
I'll
go.
second it.
And she's gonna
Moved
second.
by Mr.
There you go.
Siley, second by Ms. Terry. You got that, Liz?
We're gonna vote up and down?
Clarify what are y'all amending to the resolution?
To take,
Mr. Chairman, can I speak to that?
You may.
As the author of the motion, where it says, ma'am, purpose of applying for grant funding, it then says enacting, we'd be striking from enacting all the way until the word initiative, 2 lines down, and then we would keep is hereby approved. So it would say, for the purpose of applying for grant funding is hereby approved. Is that clear as sponge?
you have it, Liz? With that being said, we'll have a roll call vote.
Commissioner Cagnolati?
Yes.
Commissioner Casso?
Yes.
Commissioner Kluwat?
Yes.
Commissioner Dawson?
Nope.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Chairman Dempsey Lambert?
Yes.
Commissioner Todd Lambert?
Yes.
Commissioner Lawler?
Yes.
Commissioner Satterley?
Yes.
Motion passed. This is very, very sensitive, and thank for all input. Appreciate y'all.
Forgive my language, sir.
We'll go on to number 6, the drainage report. Mr. Joy, Mr. Ron.
So I'll keep it brief tonight. So routine work orders are, finally got a little dry weather and kicked off several good projects in the regular operations. A few things that happened in the last month that was significant was a lot of trees were being reported from Barry that we kind of got turned up after a couple weeks after. So crew's been pulling those out. We're just about caught up on all of that. And the Laurel Ridge boat landing was shut down. Some boards had broke. We actually removed the existing ramp and repaired it, and it's been put back into place today. So it should be in the next couple of days open and back in operation. A couple of key things was Pelican Point has been let to bid. We got a pre-bid of same day of the 16th, Monday of next week is pre-bid, and the bid opening will be on the 26th of September. Brian Hammett with Lake Park and Charleston subdivision surveying. We should get some deliverables on Lake Park at the end of this week and a milestone meeting next week to go over the plans. And at that time, they will discuss their proposal in the Charleston area. We're not sure if they have anything for solutions or anything to the table at this point, but we'll know more at the next meeting. Fish Bayou has been progressing well. We have a milestone meeting tomorrow with the landowner, and we hope to, one way or another, come up with an agreement on that and bring to the next board meeting if possible. On the routine operations, that's pretty much where we at. I'll yield to Joey on the capital projects.
Good evening.
Good evening.
The New River Channel Improvement Project, the bids was approved at the August meeting. The contracts have been signed. B&K Construction is going to be the contractor. We're going to have a pre-construction meeting with them next week, and hopefully we can get started on that project fairly soon. I mentioned Brian here. Wallace Acres subdivision is in full swing. They're replacing, all they're doing now is replacing pipes and restoring driveways. As always in this type project, you always have utility issues. The gas company did step in, and they're actually going to relocate the entire gas line through the whole subdivision. But that does take some time, but I think in about 2 weeks, they'll actually be on board in the subdivision doing work, relocating lines and getting that project to where it's going to run a little smoother. But we are making steadily progress with the contractor. We do get a lot of good feedback on that project. I know going in, it had a lot of good, a lot of positive energy from the residents, and it's maintained. I think our contractor's done a good job of informing the residences prior to disturbing their driveways and putting their driveways back in service in a reasonable amount of time. We had the RFQ for the drainage engineering support. Packages were received July 10th. 21 submittals were received. A 5-person selection committee was formed to make recommendations, and those results will be on agenda number 7 tonight. That's it. Any questions?
We'll start off with Mr. Bill on that end. You good?
Or not.
Mr. Doc? Mr.
I'm
Aaron?
good.
Mr. Randy?
Yeah, either Ron or Joey or whomever, what's the latest status on the Laurie's levy extension?
I can yield to Kimberly, but I think we're at 95% design completion. What's that?
That's coming up, October. They have a deadline coming up that they've done a really good job in meeting deadlines. But we do, I think it's next week, there's a 95% submittal that they're going to be given to us.
That would be October 4th.
Yeah, October 4th. Okay. Thanks.
So last year's 95?
95% final. We'll give you 2 weeks to review and provide feedback. We'll address those comments in another 2 weeks, and then we'll submit it to the Corps for final review.
So by November, early November, submit to the Corps?
Late October, early November, yes.
Yeah, okay. All right. I guess my other question is where we stand on our lawsuit with Livingston Parish. What, we had a meeting with the engineers, the Pontchartrain Levy District, and
Right.
ourselves with
Right.
Congressman Graves, and trying to work out somebody, referee or something, whatever you want to call it. What's up?
Well, we didn't go to round one yet, but we're getting ready to. But we're going to meet with DOTD to show GSA's modeling is different from the Dewberry model that was presented to Livingston. And so after that, then we're going to have to get with y'all to decide what we're going to do if they don't want to let us move forward.
What's your anticipation on, with DOTD? No date set for a meeting or anything?
William? We have a date set for DOTD meeting to discuss the modeling that
We don't have a date yet.
We'll let y'all know when it is, if anyone wants to come. We're pushing for it to go down this week. We're just waiting on them.
And given the basis of that injunction, lawsuit, whatever you want to call it, is the basis of us putting water, some extra water on Livingston, that within the past month and a half, announcements made for parishes north of us, including East Baton Rouge Parish, for their improvements and their plans. And I assume that, I didn't see Livingston's plans, but I assume at some point they'll have plans. By next month, I'll be making, I'll ask to move for a lawsuit to put an injunction against all the parishes north of us in the Amite River Basin for putting extra water on us. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Terry?
So, any update on the Frog Bayou and Fish Bayou project, Kimberly? I know we have a meeting in the morning that may resolve some issues, but what's our status of our permit particularly?
Well, we keep getting the same answer from the Corps. It's that it's in technical review and awaiting signature, so hopefully next month we'll have some good news.
I'm gonna bust open a bottle of champagne when they deliver that thing.
They did ask us who would be picking up the permit, so that seems like it's moving in the right direction. They don't usually ask that until they have it drafted, so.
Good.
I'll share that bottle with you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Ty? Mr. Johnny? Mr. Benny? Ron, if you don't mind, just come up for just 1 second, please, real quick.
Yes,
Our ELOS permit,
Yes, sir.
I know we have taken care of the beginning of Henderson Bayou from Highway 42 to, say, Penn Boulevard.
Yeah.
I'm getting some calls from Jamie at Galvez Farms on through to Henderson Bayou, all the way to the station. Can you
Yes, sir.
let them know that, let the people know that you're working on this permit and what's going on with it?
Yes, sir. We applied for a permit to shred Henderson Bayou, a lower end where it's deep by the pumping station end where you got a lot of wetland areas.
Sure.
I figured it might hang up. ELOS actually commented on that. It might prolong the process if we try to do digging in that area. So we opted from Henderson Bayou Road to the station to put that as a shredding portion. And also the big lateral from Henderson Bayou back to Norwood Road and all the way back up to John West. All of that would be in a shredding permit. And then from Henderson Bayou Road to Carpenter's Chapel area, that whole stretch would be is applied for a permit in the 214 employee. So that's been submitted for several months. We got several things on the books that has been applied to the Corps.
Just a rough date, when do you think we could get that kicked off?
Let's see what he says here. I don't have a specific date of when they're gonna let the permit. I mean, it's sort of like similar to Kimberly's situation. It's all the same deal. It's assigned to our agent, and they're reviewing the process, and then we're waiting on them to tell us when we're gonna get the permit. As soon as we get the permit, we'll start looking at what we need to do for mobilization.
Sure.
So as soon as we get that, we'll look at that, and there's other ditches in the pipeline as well to follow that one. So that's sort of our process we wanted to get going on all our major laterals.
Sure.
Get one of them up and running and permitted and put some in the pipeline and keep them going in a rotation. So we're working continuously toward that. It just takes time to get that, a few of them out of the queue.
Appreciate that information. So any more on the reports? Not, we'll move on to number 7. We have approval for selection committee. Ms. Berthelot.
Good evening. On July 2nd, 2019, the Ascension Parish Purchasing Department received 21 proposals for the Ascension Parish Drainage Engineering support. After review, the Ascension Parish Legal Department, it was determined that HT&B Corporation has a conflict of interest. There is a letter attached to the package explaining that they're tied up with another project or tied into another project. It is the recommendation of the Engineering Selection Committee to accept the 11 highest ranked proposals submitted by Evans Grave Engineering, CSRS, GEC Incorporated, GSA, Infinity Engineering Consultants, Myers Engineering Ltd., H. Davis Colden Associates, Burt Klein Peter, Atlas Technical Consultants, Ames Group, and PEC. Pending your review and approval to authorize the parish president to enter into any applicable agreement or contract for this service.
Mr. Aaron.
Actually, I've been looking at the numbers, and, like Doc would always say, I did a little analysis on it. I'm going to make a motion that we accept the top 14. There's a reason for that. If you eliminate the top number score for everybody and the lowest score for everybody, these numbers really jump around. Different groups start moving higher and lower. Different companies start higher and lower. So what it would be, we'd add to the contract Adora, T. Baker Smith, and Hartman Engineering. Part of the reason I'm also saying this, and I'm familiar with the work, we have Hartman Engineering right now is doing work on our sewer plan. And if we don't have enough faith in them to do some of our drainage work, I can't believe they'd be doing sewage. T. Baker Smith has done an excellent job on the Move Ascension projects they have, and have been moving forward on that extremely well. It's one of our top performers. And Adora has also done a lot of good work on our drainage side of things. And like I said, if you eliminate the highest and the lowest scores, it moves the Ames group goes from 10th to 4th. I mean, it's just a huge jump there. Atlas would drop from, there's no shot on them, but from 9th to 13th. Really, actually, that's 14th because they have some ties when you do it this way. So I'm making a motion that we accept the top 14, which would be 2 Hartman Engineering, and obviously HNTB is eliminated from this for legal reasons.
We have a motion on the table.
Who would your top 4 be?
No, it would be Evans Graves, CSRS, GEC, GSA, Infinity Engineering Consultants, Meyer Engineers, H. Davis Cole, Burt Klein Peter, Atlas Technical Consultants, Ames Group Incorporated, PEC, Adora Consultants, T. Baker Smith, and Hartman Engineering.
We have a motion. We have a second?
No, I'm not seconding that.
You're not?
No, sir.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it for discussion.
Second it for discussion. Mr. Doc.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Respectfully, I disagree with Mr. Lawler's comment about Hartman. We're confident they can do sewer. I just want to point out that this parish is not employing Hartman to do that. Ascension Sewer LLC, the consortium of Hartman, GSA, AWT, and Bernhard Capital Group is what's doing that. And that's not a slam. I mean, they might be horribly competent or overcompetent compared to the list, et cetera. But I'm going to move to go in an opposite direction here in a moment. We direct everybody first to page 1, then I want to take a look at page 8 and then page 10. And I would start with this question. Why in the heck are we anointing 11, much less now the motion on the floor, 14? I mean, why don't we just do all 20 of them? I have a problem also with the HNTB elimination only because it looks like it was scored, not only in terms of the sum of 369, and then ranked. Did we not know this group was disqualified, I believe is the correct term, before it was scored? That's another question I have. I want to thank the staff because I've been serving, again, just told people a minute ago, for 8 years, and only a few times, although I ask for it every time so that I can run statistical analyses, do we actually get each of the judges' scores for each of, in this case, 21, I guess really 20 if you eliminate HNTB, so you could determine if things are different. That said, I'm still, and I don't blame the staff for this, I don't know why it's not filtering down through, Mr. Chairman, and I would ask you to make every effort to try to correct this in the future. We really don't need to see the sums. The sums are misleading because they do not estimate the best tendency, central tendency of the population. In other words, of the five judges in each case. What we need to see is an average or a mean. So if you take, for example, the first, I'm just going to grab the top five for illustrative purposes. That's Evan Graves, CSRS, GEC, Inc., GSA, and Infinity. You've got a spread of 394 in terms of sum, that's the sum of the five judges, to 384. 384 from 394 is 10. 10 divided by five judges is only a 2-point spread. And whatever that number would be, it'd be like, you're scoring a 98 and a 96 or something of that nature. So I really would like to see, and it wouldn't be that much more effort, a column that just would have the means on it so we can take a look. Now, I don't know the answer to why we're doing 10 or 11, or if we do Mr. Lawler's motion 14, but if you just look at the top 10 with the HNTB elimination, the spread in sum is 394 to 374. That's 20 points. But again, when you divide by 5, it's only a 4-point difference. In fact, because HNTB has been eliminated in the process, and we're including now PSC, there's a further drop between Ames in the 10th place at 374 to PEC at 368, which is a 6-point drop, which divided again by 5 judges is a full point. So you're starting to get to the point where statistically some of these people, the judges didn't see them equal in their ability to be awarded, Ascension Parish Drainage General Engineering Support. Summarily, if you go back down at the list at the bottom, another comment I have at page 8 and page 10, while I appreciate us actually having an attendee list that I ask for each time, I again have to guess. I assume it's the last 5 people in that list were the 5 judges, but I can't tell that because it would be strict hearsay to say any particular column of the 5 judges is this judge or that judge, and I certainly would want the most qualified person there doing it, period. Looks like that information was there, but it looks like in my copy, the judges' names have been erased. So I'd ask again, is there any particular reason why we cannot identify in a public record who were these people so we could take a look and say, oh, this judge was the guy from Southern, and he's a professional engineer and qualified to do it. This guy was an in-house engineer, and he was qualified, or she was qualified, whatever, to do it. I really would like to see that happen along with the means. Now, I'm going to offer an amended motion. I don't think, this is to me almost like, excuse the expression, who's turning the light, who's turning the ladder and who's got their hands on the light bulb. Do we really need 10 or 11 people? Or could we be better off with 5? And if you go to 5, let's zoom back up to the first page. Remember I told you the difference between, I think I use it for illustrative purposes, the first 5 was 394 to 384. If you stop at Infinity, that's a 10-point spread. With 5 judges, it's only 2 points. I guarantee you statistically with the variance, Aaron talked about it being all over the place. It is all over the place, but that's because within a judge, though, it's not. Some people judge harshly. My guess is the academician is probably the guy that's judging in the 60s all the time. But and not to pick one firm out of another, but if you look at GSA, for example, two of the 5 judges picked them number 1, highest score, period. So my point again is I think we would be better off with lesser number, not more. I'd like to applaud the fact that we're now seeing who the judges are on the score so I can perform my statistical analyses, but I'd like to see some means as well. I'd like to make a substitute motion, Mr. Chairman, that we award the general engineering support to the top 5 firms as identified by this selection committee.
Second.
We have a amended motion.
Second.
Have a second by Mr. Dawson.
I have some comments too.
Comments, Mr. Dawson?
So I'm kind of on the same line with Doc on this, and I'm wondering, can somebody really tell us why there were 11? Why did we pick the number 11?
That's what I want to.
Okay, I picked 11 because it seemed like a natural dividing line between the scores. And while I understand all of the statistics involved, if you look at the scoring sheets, if you've worked in Ascension Parish before, you get extra points. If we know what your work is, you're awarded extra points. If you've never worked in Ascension Parish, you don't get the points. Okay, so that puts a lot of good companies out of the running in a really close scoring thing like this. So what we thought we would do was pick more rather than less. If we use them, we pay them for what we do, but if we don't use them, we don't pay them anything. So we just wanted to give some other companies a chance to maybe do some work in Ascension Parish by working on some small projects so that we could become familiar with their work. There's quite a few companies in here that have not done drainage work for Ascension Parish. Infinity did some work on the jail. Atlas Group has never worked here. Ames Group hasn't worked here. PEC hasn't worked here, at least in recent memory. So we wanted to give some other
Isn't
firms.
this, what the value of this, around $1 million total?
The value, right. We're not going to exceed the amount. Whoever gets the work.
No,
gets
I'm
the
just
work.
saying that it could be a very large amount, but you know what, the issue that I have is, you get 11, you have 11 people to pick from. And as I understand it, you don't start at number one and say, okay, I'm gonna give you the first job, and then go to the person that was number two and give you the second job.
No, we try to match the jobs up with the technical capabilities of the company. So if it's a very difficult job, then we'll give it to one of the companies that we have a lot more confidence in, or maybe if it's a job in a basin where they've already done some work, then we could give them that job.
Yeah.
We don't
So
have to
what-
give, but it's kind of like when you're just graduated from college and they go like, well, we'd like to hire you, but you have no experience. So this is just maybe a chance to give some companies some experience. And
What is-
that was
yeah.
sort of a natural dividing line, and that's how I picked it.
No, I get it. But, you know, I'm not saying that this happens, but what could happen is that we have a contract that has a very large value to it. And so we have number one, they have a company that came out number one, and we have a company that came out number 11. As far as I know, in our procedures and rules, there's nothing that prevent this number 11 from getting all the work.
Well, all the contracts have to be, the task orders, we can bring the task orders to the parish, and if you don't like the way they
Well, we
work.
don't normally go back into, but, you know, I'm in
Can I-
agreement. We have too many choices there.
Can I give an
Because,
explanation as to how all of this came about so y'all can kind of understand why this is in front of y'all? So underneath Louisiana revised statutes, there's no requirements when you're hiring a professional service to do any kind of ranking or anything to that effect. So underneath the Ascension Parish Code of Ordinances, y'all have an ordinance that says anytime you hire an engineer for a sum of greater than $50,000, it has to go through the RFQ procedure. But what continued to happen was every time a project would come up, for example, when we were worried about the HUD money coming down, we didn't have enough time to go through the 3-month RFQ selection procedure. Y'all wanted to hire an engineer. So looking at it, we fall within the rules. What we said we do is we do a generalized scope of services for engineers, and then we'd select the we'd rank them, and y'all could select however many y'all want to put in a pool. Once you select the pool, you have now met your RFQ procedure underneath your own code of ordinances, and now we come forward to the board with task order contracts anytime something comes up for y'all to vet and approve. If y'all don't like who the administrations bring forward, y'all can always tell them in a meeting, hey, we think we need to go with somebody else. So everything would still come back on task order contracts. This is just a way to speed up the process to get projects done
I mean,
faster.
look, I understand how it works. It's just that I don't like the concept, to tell you the truth. And I have, we talked about that in transportation, is that we've got these surveying companies that we award this contract to potentially these large number, and then one or two of them probably ends up getting most of the work. Now, I don't know, you know, myself, I would rather not have somebody that came out 10 or 11 here doing much of the work. If I had a choice between it, 1 through 5, that's what I'd rather have.
Yep.
Now,
So Councilman Dawson, just to tell you, the process is going to be the same whether you do your RFQ here or you do your RFQ on each individual project. You still have to go through the same engineering selection
well,
committee.
no,
You're still
they're
not
gonna have
bound
to
to hire.
select, if we say we're gonna reduce this down to 5, then they're gonna have to select that from this top 5 that's here on this list.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I understand your point on that. I guess what I'm telling you is from the RFQ standpoint of it, still got to come back to y'all for vetting on each of individual contract.
I get that.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. That's fine.
Mr. Sadler.
Mr. Dawson has it absolutely correct. I made a note here, and in my earlier turn, I apologize, Mr. Chairman, for not asking. I was going to ask how you, in-house, meaning after the council anoints whatever the number is, pick, in this case, who to use of 11 anointed of firms. And it's important because after we do this, okay, after we speak tonight, then the council, we lose control of this process. Now, Mr. Daniel answered the question a minute ago. Let's weigh his words. He said, and I quote, "In picking," in other words, in-house, after we anoint whatever the number is, "we try to match the job to technical capabilities of the company." That sounds fine, doesn't it? But didn't we already do that when we ranked them by the selection committee? And isn't that more appropriate to have those 5 judges do that than have anybody in the no offense to Mr. Daniel, I trust his expertise on many, many things, and I wouldn't have no reason not to trust him on this. But you know, but I believe that, you know, we've done a job here, but then we let the process get away from us, so to speak. And the more you put into it, it gives Mr. Daniel or anybody more leeway to pick whoever the heck they want after that. Let's be fair. Let's be really fair about this, okay? So I support the lower number, in addition to the reasons I gave earlier, and also the reason that Mr. Dawson authored, and I would like to have co-authorship of it.
You have anything else? Go ahead, Mr. Aaron.
Well, I understand that, and I see where we're coming from. However, we don't know which projects this is going to be. We can't take the qualifications for each project, say they're going to be best for this project, so we don't know which projects these are going to be.
Would the selection committee know?
That's the point. They don't. This is a group.
So why do we have a selection
Please
committee?
let me speak. Just be quiet for a moment. Talk about Slidell or something. This is a group of projects that we don't know what they're going to be, so we have a large group of engineers that we could specifically discuss which projects some would be better at than other ones. That's the only reason I'm saying it's good to have a larger group, because I guarantee some engineering firms have certain expertise or certain knowledge of certain areas on projects they've already worked on, which may make them a better fit for another project. If we want to take the top 5, I'm okay with that. If that's the case, we'll take the top 1, take the top 2, take the top 3. But, you know, I don't see that there's a big problem with having a larger selection, because once again, there's nothing to stop us from selecting only from the top 5, even if we choose 14. That's just my thought process on that.
Mr. Kua.
I got a quick question on the background information in the page for the information y'all presented to us. I just need an explanation on the minutes of the August 8th, 2019 meeting. It shows members present, and it's got several members of our staff and administration. And it shows that Stoker Brown of CSRS and Glenn Duncan of PEC present.
Yes, sir.
So
Your question.
what was their presence? Mr. Daniels?
They were present at when we announced the bids. We deliberate without them being present.
That's what I want to clarify.
And for your information, the first 5 people listed on the minutes, they were the judges.
Yeah, I'm pretty square of that. I just want to clarify that, okay? And my second thing, looking at the 11 versus 14 versus 5, we had discussed several months ago, I brought up IDIQ. You know, just getting the folks on board in this same fashion somewhat. I just don't know that it follows that same thing. Mr. Daniels, you got experience with IDIQ and individual, you know, orders.
Yes, sir.
So is this kind of in the same realm?
Well, that was the idea, was to have a number of different companies. I mean, at one time, we talked about doing all the drainage basins. Some are obviously small, can be done quickly, others are more complicated. So we said, well, we've got, how many? 13 drainage basins, and then sub-basins and other projects. So we thought, this is a great opportunity to, I mean, honestly, I would have confidence in most of the 21 on there doing the work on any given day. So, but you have to score them according to the sheets and the score cards that, you know, that describe how they do. How much work have they done in Ascension Parish? How busy are they now? You know, who makes up the different staff? So that's the way you have to score them.
So in other words, you know, if we go with the 11 as proposed tonight, and then we turn around and you give a project out, then when it comes to us, it comes to us with a name on it, and it's a firm on it.
Yes, sir.
And it's not necessarily any scoring will be there, but it'd be up to our discretion to say, hey, well, why you didn't pick firm B instead of firm A?
Absolutely.
Good deal.
Ms. Terry?
So I understand that HNTB was disqualified for some conflict of interest, another contract with the parish. So, I mean, CSRS, who's, I think the world of those guys, but they have, I mean, Sean Chereau does our plan review. Are they conflicted out? I mean, GSA does other work with Ascension Parish. Are they conflicted out?
Well-
How was this exclusive of, how was HNTB exclusively?
They have the master drainage.
I understand, but.
So we didn't want them, you normally don't want the master drainage company coming up with projects that they could be benefit of. So we thought it would best that they be a, third, arm's length third party.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Mr. Todd? Mr. Johnny? Mr. Ben?
Is there, William, is there a way to limit the, I guess, the dollar amount to kind of, on each, to make it more equitable across the board, other than just going by who y'all believe to be the most qualified for a specific task?
Well, obviously, the more complex the project, the more expensive the engineering's going to be. So the thought was the top companies that get the more complex projects, they're probably going to get the lion's share of the money. But the whole purpose was, well, there's companies out there that we think are really good companies, but they just haven't worked in Ascension Parish, and they didn't get all the points. So we said, perhaps they could get some smaller projects and have a chance to earn their way up in the future.
I guess one of the concerns that I'm hearing, and they can correct me if I'm wrong, is if there's a way, I guess, as these projects are doled out, if it would make more sense that, a report's given to say, as far as this particular item, this is where we are as far as awarding the different contracts in order to spread it out to make sure that we still have a little bit of a control or say as to, the fact that we're not just giving it to a couple of companies.
Yeah, I was gonna tell you, I don't have any issue if y'all wanna make a condition of this, that all tasks needs to be approved by the Drainage Board, when we come to y'all with all task order contracts. I mean, it's what we pretty much do already.
All task orders gonna come to y'all for approval.
Correct.
I guess just a
Each
matter of,
project.
well, yeah, and I just for, and again, not wanting to put words in their mouth, but we did have that conversation at Transportation about this type of thing where we're loading up a whole bunch of work into one company as opposed to spreading it out. I see the benefit in doing what you're doing, but also is it, a possibility when we do award or select a company to come do a particular job that we kind of get an update as to where we are with all these different companies across the board, maybe, to make sure that we're being fair and issuing out the contract?
Be happy to every time we bring a task order, bring it up and then give you a report on exactly where we are with all the projects and then the money being spent.
And look, just to point out, if you look at number 10 on the agenda with the surveyors, we've been doing this for years, the same concept with the
that's right.
surveyors.
Yeah.
Mr. Aaron?
Yeah, actually, I don't see a need to worry about spreading work out. I mean, I don't see any need to say that everybody's got to get a little bit. I see a need to get the best person for each job, I think is the most important part of it. Not necessarily having just to spread work out, just to spread work out. I mean, I really don't see that as the main goal of this. I do have a question, though, as far as getting points, like just because you worked in the parish. That seems almost incestual. Yeah, I mean, that just seems like a very odd thing, simply because you've already done work in the parish. It seems very self-serving. That's something I think we should eliminate.
That is the scoring on every single place I've ever worked, including the state, East Baton Rouge Parish, everybody. That's just kind of the way it is.
Well, it certainly seems like something that local engineers would set up to help themselves, quite honestly.
No, well, I don't know how, I'm just telling you, it's the state, on the state scorecard, it was on the East Baton Rouge Parish scorecard, it's on the Ascension scorecard, it's in the other parishes that I've seen. That's just the way it works.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem right. I mean, that's something I think that we eliminate. Just because you've done work in the parish before, I don't think it gives
Well,
you.
have, the idea is that you know them, you have familiarity with them. But I mean, it's how much work do you have? which is sometimes a hard thing to judge, you know.
But once again, if somebody has a bunch of work, if they're doing a good job, let them keep doing a good job. Let's not spread around to somebody else that,
Well, you want to make sure that when you give them a project, that they can complete it timely. So if they're already stretched, if their resources are already stretched, then you say, well, you give them less points. If they haven't worked in the parish, you give them less points.
I just think it's very strange that we're just giving points to people just because they've done work in the parish. Because you're starting people with a leg up on other people that may be extremely good, that may be brand new, that may have, you may have a company that's split away from another company that is a fantastic company, and we're just not going to give them work because they haven't done work in the parish. I don't think that's right, and that's something I think we need to visit. Is that per ordinance, or is that just how we do things?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure how the ordinance reads on that. The ordinance just says you go to the selection committee. We're actually looking at having those, I think we awarded a contract to Sigma to help us rewrite all that. That can be part of it, and maybe they can come and give you a better explanation as to why that particular scoring requirement is in there.
I mean, I hate to say, just because the state of Louisiana doesn't mean it's a good idea.
Well, no, but I'm just telling you, everywhere that I've ever been, that particular wording is in the scoring.
I
Everywhere.
understand. Thank you.
Mr. Bill?
Just one more question. If we approve 5 tonight, let's just say we do that, and then sometimes later you guys see, oh, this is not working, we need to add 1 or 2. Could that happen, Cody?
Have to do another RFQ.
You'd have to see what the
Well,
expiration.
that's not
of
what we
RFQ is
did in
for.
some of the other cases.
Sir?
Particularly, that's not what we did in some of the other cases. We used that RFQ more than once.
No, in the other cases, you were actually under contract and you did change orders to the contracts. Not sure if you.
I know the
can use it.
particular case you're talking about.
Yeah, I figured you'd be familiar with that.
But, I mean, I would suggest under, if you have the time to do another RFQ, you would do that.
But let's just say it was possible.
It was possible.
Anything.
Mr. Sadler?
Yeah, and just to make a little further problem, is this correct? This one's for you, dear.
What's correct?
These judges, do they, I'm not saying it happened this time, do they, upon occasion, turn in their score ranking of an engineering firm without actually attending the meeting where deliberations occurred?
That has us,
Okay.
and that is read.
Thank you for your honesty. Mr. Chairman, I'm totally against that. I don't know if that's an ordinance. I doubt it is, but if that's an in-house policy, let's examine that on its face.
How can they do that?
Well, thank you, Mr. Dawson is echoing here. How can they do that? How can they do that? I mean, if you're not there for.
There's no deliberation.
If you,
You turn in your score sheets.
well, a minute ago
and
you
they add
said,
them
well,
up.
then why even have a meeting if there's no deliberation? Why don't everybody just turn the distance?
Well, you actually could do that, but I think.
But that's not what we're doing. And what I just heard from the young lady is that, yes, upon occasion, it does happen. So my point is, if you've already made your mind up and you're scoring all the individuals and you're not even there to hear, it's sort of like the law had changed by homeroom charter, where you start off with an employee's appeal of a presidential firing with 2/3 vote of the membership, and 2 of them aren't present, so they start with no votes, and, we got that fixed. This ought to be fixed, too.
There's
If you're
no
not there, let me finish.
discussion.
If you're not there to hear the benefit of the deliberation, therefore you cannot have your mind changed. It's just wholly unfair in my mind.
There's
Do it
no-
one way or the other.
There's no debate, Councilman, that's what I'm trying to tell
I'm
you.
not saying it doesn't matter, but I mean,
scored off
if
the-
I'm sitting there and I'm listening to these other 4 engineers are trained individuals and they're making points or whatever, and whatever deliberation, what is deliberation? Something has to be said. If I'm open-minded, I could change my mind. But if I'm closed-minded because I'm not even there and I've already turned my score in, it is over.
The scoring is on the proposals they turn in. There is no debate or deliberation during the meeting.
So what do you mean?
The meeting is you turn in your scores, you add them up, and,
A minute ago, you said there was deliberation. I'm just using your word, so.
well, because you're required to come and we have a meeting and there's a quorum, and so you have to have a quorum to actually be there. So if one person's missing and doesn't make it, and you still have a quorum, then you can turn in the scores.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to yield the rest of my time to Mr. Dawson.
I just had one. I mean, if somebody is not there, do they turn their score in after everybody else has turned, or how does that? You know, because if the other four have already scored, and then I have an opportunity to,
No, sir, they're filled out ahead of time, and all that, what happens is that they call the meeting to order, then, for example, in that meeting, there were 2 engineering companies there. Once the meeting comes to order, then they ask them to leave, then everybody turns in their score sheets, they add them up, they total them, they see who's, who the highest scores were, and then we.
where does a sheet come from somebody that's not there? When does that come in?
They turn in the day before.
Okay, I think that's another issue.
All right, well, we have first to vote on is the amended motion by Mr. Sadlerly to reduce the selection to 5 engineers. We're gonna go ahead and have a roll call on the amended motion. Ms. Liz?
Commissioner Cagnolati?
No.
Commissioner Casso?
No.
Commissioner Kluwat?
No.
Commissioner Dawson?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
No.
Chairman Dempsey Lambert?
No.
Commissioner Todd Lambert?
No.
Commissioner Lawler?
No.
Commissioner Satterley?
Yes.
7 to 2.
3 to.
Something to do.
7 to 2.
Right, so it's,
We can average that out later.
Better than
All right, with that being said, noes have it, 7 to 2. With the, we'll be, to the original motion, we'll have the 11.
you got
No, no.
you
got
got
the
Aaron's
14.
motion next.
All right, all right, we have, Mr. Lawler's to take the 14 engineers,
You got a
top,
motion? and a second?
14 engineers.
You got a motion?
Aaron.
You had a second.
You second, motion,
No,
second.
she seconded.
I seconded it for discussion.
could y'all clarify the motion, what we doing,
Aaron's
14 or
mo-
11? Huh?
Aaron, 14.
14.
Aaron's motion for 14, Jerry Cazzo second for discussion.
Roll call, Ms. Liz.
Commissioner Cagnolati?
Yes.
Commissioner Casso?
Yes.
Commissioner Kluwat?
No.
Commissioner Dawson?
No.
Commissioner Johnson?
No.
Chairman Dempsey Lambert?
Yes.
Commissioner Todd Lambert?
Yes.
Commissioner Lawler?
Yes.
Commissioner Satterley?
No.
Close to
That's
that
for
time.
14, right?
What was that?
5 to 4.
5 to 4.
5 to 4.
Passes.
5
Pass.
Yay.
14
Yeas have it.
and 4 nays.
Make the motion.
So we're going.
All right, with that being said, we'll move on to number 8, the amended number 5 master contract. Mr. Bro, is it Mr. Duplessis or Mr. Ron?
I would take this, number 8, we're at amendment number 5 for master contract professional services between East Ascension Consolidated Gravity Drainage District Number 1 and on-grade construction for roadside ditch maintenance extended original term of the contract to September 13th, 2020. This is just a time extension.
Motion.
Moved by Mr. Johnny,
Second.
second by Mr. Cloyd. Any opposition? Motion passed. Number 9.
Number 9 is
Number one,
number
go ahead.
1 to master contract for professional service between East Ascension Consolidated Gravity Drainage District Number 1 and on-grade construction for the setting and installation of culverts extending original term to October 9th, 2020, just the
So
extension time.
moved.
Moved by Mr. Terry.
Second.
Second by Mr. Johnny. Any opposition to the motion? Not. Motion passed. Number 10.
Authorization to renew the following annual master contracts for professional service of topographical and boundary surveying services between East Ascension Consolidated Gravity Drainage District Number 1 for a total budget amount of $200,000 and shared amongst the following per task orders. BFM Corporation, Brian Hammond Associates, Earls and Associates, Quality Engineering, T. Baker Smith.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Cluett, second by Mr. Johnson. Any opposition to the motion? Ms. Terry?
Just for the sake of conversation, since we've been having so much discussion about whether this gets evenly apportioned, have we used all of the engineering, all of the surveying services listed here?
I believe so, yes, ma'am.
Very good, very good. And has that distribution been fairly equal in as you know? As you know now?
Since I've been involved with it, ma'am, I know of 4 of them that we've used in the last year, and I think the 5th one has been used not long before us, coming in after Mr. Bill retired. So all of them have been used. And they're all great companies, and we're satisfied with their services.
Fantastic, thank you very much.
We have a motion and a second. Any opposition to that motion? Not, motion passed. Number 11, authorization. Go ahead, Ron.
Authorization to renew the following annual contract for wetland delineation between East Ascension Consolidated Gravity Drainage District Number 1 and Elos Environmental in the amount of $150,000.
Moved by Mr. Todd. Second by Mr. Johnny. Any opposition or discussion? None. Motion passed. All right, Ron, number 13.
Yeah, authorization to renew annual contract between, are we on 13 or 12?
I'm sorry, number 12.
Authorization to renew the following contract for wetland delineation between East Ascension Consolidated Gravity Drainage District Number 1 and Providence Engineering, the amount of $150,000.
Motion.
Moved by Mr. Cluett,
Second.
second by Ms. Terry. Any opposition or discussion? Not. Motion passed. Now, number 13.
Authorization to renew the annual contract between Otis Wagner Jr. LLC and East Ascension Consolidated Gravity Drainage District Number 1 in the amount of $120,000 to provide 4 trucks for hauling materials as needed.
Motion.
Moved by Mr. Benny, second by Mr. Johnny.
Quick question.
Question, Mr. Cluett.
Yes, sir.
Ron, where this falls different than our contract trucks that we normally have?
This is the,
Is that our disposal?
just dump truck services. It's not the maintenance contract or anything like that. So as we need a additional truck for us, shortage of trucks, or if we have a big project, we can call these guys on.
I'm saying we always had to list truck drivers. you know.
Yeah, we actually down to this one gentleman with the insurance requirements. We get called all the time
I just want to
about
clarify
it.
that and make sure everybody understands
Absolutely.
that. So you're down to this one contract for contract truck driver,
That's
dump
it.
trucks.
We had one inquiry last month and of course that, but when they see,
What's the latest on the insurance? We had upped these rates about 4 years ago to try to help match what we were asking for in insurance.
I don't have it right in front of me. It's roughly, it's a big on the workers' comp.
It's over a
And
million,
what it is,
million and a half.
a guy that has one truck, it
Yeah,
just doesn't
it's
add up
just
for
too
him.
much.
But if you got a company that's got multiple trucks, he's.
I'd just like for y'all, the administration, for you guys to take a look at that and see where we, where's our shortage at, basically, for the dollar we pay. This is an hourly service, of course,
Mhm.
that we pay versus the ability for them to meet our insurance needs. We may be in the same cycle we were years ago.
All right, we'll check it out.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, you talk about the trucks, we lose CDL drivers all the time because we don't pay what the other companies pay.
Very competitive. All right, we have a motion second. Any other discussion? Not. Motion passed. Number 14.
This is approval of a buyback of .67 acres of drainage servitude along Bayou Francois located at 10172 Highway 431 in Santa Monica at a cost of $9,862.13 for the title.
That's yours, Randy.
Motion.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Cluett, second by Mr. Todd. Discussion or opposition? None. Motion passed. Number 15, executive session. Motion. Ms. Bliss.
Second.
Motion second, Ms. Bliss. Roll call.
Commissioner Cagnolati?
Yes.
I know, I got it right.
Commissioner Cazzo?
Yes.
Commissioner Cluett?
Yes.
Commissioner Dawson?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
We just
Chairman Dempsey Lambert.
Yes.
Commissioner Todd Lambert.
Yes.
Commissioner Lawler
Yes.
and Commissioner Sadley.
2117?
Dolly School, I was bust. I was bust.
Let's call it.
Yeah, based on their request. Well, you can use that.
Motion to
Second.
Motion to reconvene.
Second.
Councilman Lloyd. All right, Mr. Dawson, number 15.
I move that we move forward with the legal contract between East Ascension Gravity Drainage District and the town of Sorrento for roadside ditch cleaning, and to establish a not-to-exceed amount based on the town of Sorrento's request.
Motion, I second.
Second by Mr. Fluid. Any opposition to the motion? None? Motion passed. Motion adjourned. Motion adjourned by Mr. Sadler, second by Mr. Terry.
Same